Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to create a pumpkin keychain. So all you will need is a 5mm crochet hook and some orange weight 4 or worsted weight yarn. So let's get right into it. You're going to start out by creating a slip knot and some chains. I have explained this in greater detail in some of my other videos, so if you want a full in-depth video on how to slip knot and chain, how to single crochet and half double crochet, then make sure to check out those videos. But for now, I'll show you just quick examples here. So for a slip knot, you are going to wrap your yarn around here and create like the number 6, and then just pinch both of these threads where they cross, and then drag this tail through, hook this with your finger, and then just pull. And that is your slip knot. So now you are going to chain 16. So you're going to wrap your yarn around and pull through. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So now we have our chain of 16, and we're going to be working 15 single crochets. So you are going to be skipping this first chain here closest to the hook, and we're going to be wrapping our yarn around once and inserting, so we're skipping the first chain and inserting it into the second, wrap the yarn around again, pull through that chain, wrap around again, and pull through all 3, and that is a half double crochet. And we're going to continue that 15 times. So that's 3. You can see that each of these chains has a V shape, and we are inserting our hook into that top of the V, or that top loop here. Okay, I'm going to continue and show you what we do when we get to the... Okay, I have 15 half double crochets here. So you can see that each of these has a V again, and those are our stitches, including this one on the side here. So now we are going to chain once, and then turn your work around, and then wrap your yarn around and insert again on the second stitch from your hook. So I'm inserting it into the back loop now. We're doing half double crochets in the back loop only. So wrap your yarn around, and then you have these V's again. You're going to be inserting it into the back loop. So you're not going to be putting it into both of these here, only the back loop. And you're going to be doing that 15 times. You want to make sure that you're keeping count. So right now I have 3. I'm going to continue, and I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Okay, so I have 12 stitches here. So I'm going to get to my 15 here. So this will be 13, 14, and then you may look and it might look like this is the end of the row here, but since we were counting, we know that we've only done 14 stitches and we need 15. So you're going to be inserting it on the side here. This is where you had your chain. And this is what is going to keep your edges nice and straight by making sure that you are counting every time, and not skipping or missing any stitches or adding any extra stitches. So I chained one, turned my work around again, wrap my yarn around, insert it into the second stitch from the hook, and I'm going to continue doing my half double crochet stitches in the back loops. I'll show you what it looks like at the end again, and then we're just going to continue this pattern for 20 rows. Okay, so I have 13 stitches here. This is 14, and then again it looks like this is the end, but I only have 14, so we still have this V stitch here. I'm inserting into that back loop, and now we have the 15 stitches here. So I'm going to continue this so that we have 20 rows. Now you can look at these here, and you can see how many rows we already have. We have 3, and you can tell by the separation here with these back loops. So we have 1, 2, 3, or you could switch it so this section is 1 row, this is another row, and then this is another row. So if you lose track, you can always just count by the separation. You can see that each of these stitches is almost like a little bundle or like an X of some sort. And so that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. You can see that there is some separation there. So you can always count that way if you lose track. But you're going to continue this for 20 rows. Okay, I am at the end of row 20 here. And I'm just finishing up my final stitches here. Remember, half double crochet in the back loops only. Sometimes you may miss a thread like I did here, so you can just undo your work easily by pulling it and then redoing that stitch. Okay, last one here in this back loop here. All right, there we have 20 rows with even edges here, or straight edges. Okay, so now to sew everything together. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull with my hook here so that I have a long thread, and then I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut a pretty long thread here because we're going to be using it for sewing. So I'm going to take quite a bit, and then I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to pull through, so just keep pulling on that loop until it's all the way through. Now I have a long thread on this end, and then one on this end as well. Okay, now to sew everything together. So I have my long thread here, and I'm just going to insert it into my hook. The way I like to do that is just by wrapping it around the hook like this and pinching it together, and then feeding it through. That's just the easiest way that I find to thread my yarn through the needle. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you can see that we have this long piece here, but to turn it into a pumpkin, we are going to have to sew this all together. So I have my needle here, and I'm just going to start threading through these top loops. So you can see that we have these V stitches here. So I'm going to be taking these outside loops here, and then this is the chain, so there's only the one here. But I'm just going to start threading those through. So I'm taking this outside loop here and working it through the chain on the other side. You want to make sure it doesn't get stuck here. You want to pull it through tightly. This is how it's going to look when it's fully sewn. So I'm just going to continue sewing, and then I'll show you the next step after that. Okay, so now I have this all sewn together here. I have this extra thread here from the chain that we had started. I'm not really going to need that, so I'm just going to tuck that inside for now. And now this next step is you are going to be sewing this so that it all pinches together close like this. So I'm taking this needle, and you don't have to be precise with this at all. Everything will come together. So I'm just feeding it through some of these top loops here. Again, it does not have to be precise. There isn't any specific stitches you have to go through, but you can see that when you pull, it starts bringing it all together. But you will be doing a back and forth motion. So I went towards me this time, and now I'm going to go towards the outside. So a little zipper or zigzag motion here. So bring it forward and then bringing it back. And you can see as we tighten, it starts pulling. So you're just going to do that for the rest. You want to kind of have some even spacing. You don't want it to be too spread out, but you also don't need it to be every single stitch either. So I'm kind of just doing every other here. Pulling to see how much I have left, so I just have this section here left. Okay, I'm pulling tight. Make sure not pull too tight so that it breaks. But now you can see that we have sewn this closed. But I'm going to make sure that it is fully closed by threading through the opposite sides of this open circle. So I brought it through there. Now I'm just going to go across this way and just pulling tight, making sure that I'm closing any gaps. My thread came out here, but you can always just quickly put that on again. You can see that there is some slight gapping right here, and I want to fix that. So I'm going to pull it through one more time. Okay, so now we have one side of the pumpkin. I'm going to bring this through the inside here, and then I'm just going to insert it anywhere on this top part here, because we're going to be sewing the next part. And you're also wanting it to pull up from the bottom, so you get that typical pumpkin shape where these two sides are squeezing towards each other. But first, before we start sewing, I am going to stuff this pumpkin. Okay, I have some polyfill here, and I'm just going to stuff this pumpkin. You want it to be pretty stuffed, so just keep fluffing it until you have a pretty firm ball. Now I have this other polyfill here that's not already pre-clumped like this, so I'm just gonna pull it apart a bit, break it up, and then I'm going to stuff it in. Now I'm going to stuff it pretty lightly right now, so it's still very squishy. It's not very tight, but I'm going to leave it like that for now, And I'm going to repeat the same process that I did on the other side by sewing this top section together. So I will be back when it's almost fully closed. Okay, now before I fully tighten this, I'm going to stuff it some more. Just so that it's firmer. You want to make sure that it's pressing in on all sides and that it's even. You don't want one side to be too lumpy. Once you're happy with its firmness, then you're just going to finish sewing this pumpkin up. Okay, now I have this fully sewn up, but I'm just going to close this middle. So same process, I'm going to just bring it through each side here in the middle. If there's any gaps, especially if you have polyfill sticking out, you can just take that out. But you want to make sure that you're closing any gaps that you have. So I have some here. I'm just going to thread my yarn through to kind of fill those gaps up. Okay, now it can be pretty messy because we are going to be covering this top side up, or whichever side that you think is maybe a bit messier. We're going to be covering it with the stem. So now I'm going to bring my thread into the center here, and then poke it through again, just like that, and I'm going to bring it all the way to the center of the other side here. So basically what I'm doing is I am pulling down to this other end to give it that pumpkin shape here. Now if I let go, it's probably just gonna, go back to its normal shape. So you want to pull, and then you want to secure it. So I'm going to take any loop here, put my hook through there, and then I'm just going to create a knot. So again, you want to make sure that it's nice and tight, and then I'm creating a knot here so that it stays in place. And I'm just going to do that a couple more times. Want to make sure that it is very secure. And now I'm going to do the same exact thing where I put my needle through just like about one loop apart here, and then bring it through the center on the other side. And pull tight. And then knot it to secure it. Okay, now we kind of have a good pumpkin shape going on here. However, to really get those ridges of a pumpkin we're going to be taking yarn here and then feeding it through the other end here, nice and tight, so that it really creates those pumpkin sections. And we're going to be doing this all around the pumpkin. If you don't have enough yarn, I don't really have enough yarn at this point. I'm going to need some more. So what you can either do is knot some more to your end here, or you can just feed some through the middle here and make sure that it is secured. I'm just going to knot mine because it'll be hidden. It won't be seen as we're pulling through here. So I'm going to go add some more yarn real quick, and then I will show you what to do next. Okay, I have more yarn added here. So what you're going to do is take this yarn, and to create your sections, you want it to be in between these ridges here. This is where we did our back loops. You can see clear, like this vertical pattern here of these lines, these ridges, I'll say. So you want to thread it in between those. So you're going to, just like we did before, insert your needle through the bottom and then up through the top. And you want to make sure that it's nice and tight so that it really defines those pumpkin sections. And now you're just going to do this 4 more times. So you're going to have 5 pumpkin sections. So you're going to find you want these 2 ridges in between, and then you're going to thread it through again. If you ever lose your place, like I did here, you can just go back from where you started here and then bring it where you want it. And then pull. And just keep repeating this process here. Okay, we have 2 sections here now, and we're going to create 5. So this will be my 3rd, and then going to divide the next 2 in this section here. Okay, I now have all of my pumpkin sections here. So now I need to make sure that I secure it. So just as we did before, you're just going to be creating knots here. So pull through and then thread the needle through this loop here, and you will be creating some knots. Now again, it won't really matter how bad it looks at the top here, because we will be covering it with the stem. But I'm just going to be doing this a couple more times, just really making sure that it is secure. And then once I'm done knotting, I'm just going to thread my yarn through. It doesn't really matter where. I'm just really making sure that this thread is just all around the inside here before cutting it off. Just making sure that everything is extra secure. Now you do want to make sure that you're not, putting your needle in somewhere like this and then pulling tight, because that is going to mess with the form factor there. But you're just going to be, and sometimes when you pull through, some of your polyfill might come out. So just, make sure that you carefully remove it without pulling out too much. Or if you want, you can always take your head of the needle and then poke it back through. Okay, I think that's good. And now I'm going to cut it and then poke that tail in with the needle. Okay, and now you have a pumpkin. So now you just have to make the stem and then you'll attach a keychain on top of that. So now we're going to be creating the stem in a worsted weight or weight 4 brown yarn. And it's going to be following the same steps as you made the pumpkin. So to create a slip knot, you want to make sure that you have a very long tail this time, because that is what you're going to be using to sew it onto the top of the pumpkin. So I'm taking a long thread here, and then I'm going to create my slip knot. So I'm creating that 6 pattern and then pinching where they cross, bringing that tail underneath and hooking this thread in the middle here while holding these two to create a slip knot here. And then I'm just going to chain 6. So wrapping around, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, just like we did with the pumpkin, you're going to be skipping this first single crochet right there, or that first chain, and then you're going to single crochet 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the last one here, 5. So this is the start of our stem. We're just going to be doing one more here. So we're going to chain 1, flip it, and then you're going to be inserting into both of these loops. So with the pumpkin we did the back loop only. This time we're going to be inserting into the front 2, and you're going to be doing a single crochet instead of half double crochet, so you will not be wrapping your yarn around the hook before. You should only have 2 loops on your hook before pulling through. Okay, and that should be the stem that you have here, and we'll just sew it to the top here, and then you'll have a keychain up here, and that will be your pumpkin keychain. So first, I'm still gonna cut a bit of a long thread here to sew in, and then I'm just gonna pull on my hook to bring that yarn through, and then I'm going to secure this yarn, putting it through the needle, and then I'm going to insert it here and then bring my needle through to create that knot. And then I'm just going to bring this thread down to the bottom where the base of the pumpkin will be. And then I'm actually just going to knot these 2 tail threads together. Okay. And I'm going to, at the start, actually take both of these threads through my needle. And I'm going to sew it to the top of this pumpkin here. So you can take any section here in the middle to start with. And bring both of these tails through. Like so. So we're starting to attach it here. And then we're just going to continue along down the line of this stem. Okay, and then do it once more here. Pull it tight. Okay, so now I'm just going to be working with this shorter loop here, just to make sure that it is secured on the inside of this pumpkin here. So I'm just going to thread it through the inside here, and then just out anywhere. And then do the same process as we did when we were securing the tail of the pumpkin. Just do it a couple times and then cut. And then poke in. So now with this longer thread, I'm going to secure this stem just a little bit better. So we primarily focused on this side, so now I'm going to go on this side here. Just want to make sure that it is fully secured. And I'm just going to take this here, and now I'm going to do the same thing that I did with that other brown tail. Just keep threading it through several times. And then you can cut and then push the end in to the pumpkin. And there you have a pumpkin with a stem. And then you would just attach your keychain to any section, because there's several holes here, so you could just attach it anywhere to the top of that stem there. And that is your finished pumpkin.